Hello, ladies and gentlemen of Anchorage, District 31. This is Dan DiNardo. I am standing for election to the House of Representatives to represent you in the state legislature. Tonight I'm going to continue with another YouTube discussion. This one is the part 2 regarding attorneys. As I've stated before, this is a very diabolical, Luciferian organization. If you're ever around them long enough, and I am for 26 years, you'll find that they're all pathological compulsive liars. That when they're not lying for themselves, that they're covering up the lies of their other members, what they call their brotherhood. I know this because I've sued the State Bar Association about 3 times, and the Bar Association ruled that it's okay for an attorney to use perjured affidavits. It's okay for an attorney to actually use somebody to notarize affidavits in a case who's not even a notary. And it's okay if attorneys know that and utilize that, that's fine. And it's okay if attorneys lie, because that is part of their job. Now, John Sudduck, who's a chancellor in the Superior Court in Anchorage, when I brought these issues up to him in open court, he admitted that this is common practice and that they had to have basically misconduct hearings, that the line would stretch around the block and they would go into gridlock. John Sudduck also stated very emphatically, it's on the record, and I have a transcript of everything he stated, he said an attorney has an obligation to lie for the client to protect the client's financial interest. Now, this is a Superior Court chancellor who you may end up appearing before, but that is the diabolical nature of the kind of people that are on the bench. Another one that's really terrible, and she's a very close friend, in fact she's a clone of Dana Fabe, who sits on the Alaska Supreme Soviet, is Morgan Kristen. Morgan Kristen likes to go around making criminal accusations against innocent people, accusing them of threatening to kill her and her family and her children, but she never brings charges against these people. She just likes to try to intimidate them. She also likes to ignore controlling precedent out of the Alaska Supreme Soviet itself, and she's compelled by the Judicial Code of Conduct to apply those precedents. But she does not do that because she's a friend of Dana Fabe and she can get away with anything she wants to. In fact, Dana Fabe is, for 3 years now, has appointed her as what's called the presiding judge in the 3rd Judicial District. She has control of all the administrative affairs, and that's quite an extensive gift of power, and yet she was a totally failed attorney at the law firm of Preston and Gates. She has nothing to bring her upon her any recognition whatsoever as being qualified for the bench. And I think it's very important for you to realize that these so-called chancellors are sitting now, they're making over $16,000 a month. They have 2 pay raises within the last 3 years, thanks to Mr. Bob Lynn and the rest of the Republican Communist Party and the Democratic Communist Party, because they were told, we can't find good talent unless we pay more. Good talent, there's no such thing as a good talent in the Bar Association because they're all communist comrade criminals. This is what they do for a living. And as an example of one of the things that they've done, they've made sure that we've been starting to institute in the state and federal courts foreign decisions under the Roman civil law that was overthrown in 1776 and in 1789 at the Constitutional Convention. Let me show you something of a very dramatic picture, and I've showed this before, but unfortunately I had the bill upside down. This is what's called a United States note. Now you'll notice that it has a red seal, and at the top it states United States note. This is the only common law money of account ever put into circulation, actually paid into circulation by the United States government. Everything, even the gold and silver certificates, were really not money of account because they were the government was able to expand and contract them at will. This, on the other hand, was totally contrary. Jefferson, unfortunately his picture does appear, he is the one that designed this legal document, a lawful document at law, based upon his unequaled knowledge of the common law, and it was put into circulation by Abraham Lincoln and again by that great president John F. Kennedy. and both of them were murdered because of it, because this destroys the banking system. You don't need a banking system. You don't have a national debt. You don't have national bonds. You don't have foreign control of the United States anymore. There is no inflation. There's no budgetary process. There's no cost considerations, because this is natural. It grows with population and productivity, and there never is an inflation. You build a house today for $850. 25 years from now, you build the same house for probably $900 or a little bit more, only because as population grows, you increase the money supply. So it's very minimal. You have a totally stable society, and you have no crime. On the other hand, we have now what are international gold bills of exchange, the Federal Reserve note. This is not U.S. currency. This is a federal note issued by the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. And to issue it, you've got to give them U.S. bonds drawing at least 6% on a 30-year contract, which creates a national debt at the present of over $25 trillion. You cannot pay off that debt because there is no money. Under the law, under scientific fact, and under practical reality, only money can pay off a debt. A debt such as the Federal Reserve debt, which is a private corporation, speaking on behalf of all the United States, the people who live in the United States, it cannot be paid off, so it's perpetual. What they do is they roll the tremendous amounts of interest being generated into principal, which then they call the national debt. And basically what eventually happens is that they militarily attack you and destroy you because you've reneged on your debt. Another thing they do is they send that country's military overseas as a foreign expeditionary force like the U.S. military is used now, your sons and daughters, and because you have to pay off this debt in your blood and in your life. And they mean business. This has happened throughout the centuries, and that's what 1776 and 1789 was about. That broke that stranglehold. And if you might note, take your $1 bill and look on the back, and you see the occult pyramid of the Illuminati and the Masonic order, telling you what a diabolical occult stranglehold is now placed on this country, thanks to the attorneys, and I'm going to put those attorneys out of business forever in the state of Alaska, and I promise you that. Now I'm going to stop here and prepare for another discussion with you on some other very important subjects. Thank you very much.